Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. The Laughing Corpse, United States, 1940s. This haunting image shows what appears to be a mummified figure seated in a decayed armchair, its face frozen in a chilling grin, believed to have been discovered in an abandoned farmhouse. The eerie expression and deteriorated surroundings evoke an unsettling mix of tragedy and horror. The photograph became infamous for its disturbing realism, often mistaken for a macabre art installation or crime scene evidence. Whether genuine or staged, it remains one of the most unsettling vintage photos ever captured. The Witch of the Studio, Hollywood, USA, 1950s. This haunting portrait shows a grotesque witch figure, her disfigured face and long, twisted nails crafted with eerie precision. It was actually a behind-the-scenes makeup test from a mid-century horror film, created by legendary special effects artists experimenting with latex prosthetics and exaggerated realism. The lifelike texture and unsettling expression made it one of the most convincing monster makeups of its time. Even decades later, this image continues to unsettle viewers who mistake it for something far more sinister than Hollywood art. The Mouth of Silence, unknown location, 1960s. This unsettling close-up photograph shows what appears to be a human mouth sealed shut, with coarse strands of hair emerging from the darkness within. The image was part of an avant-garde art series exploring the boundaries between beauty, fear, and the grotesque. Its ambiguity, neither clearly human nor entirely abstract, leaves viewers disturbed and fascinated in equal measure. Even today, it remains a haunting reminder of how surrealism in photography can blur the line between reality and nightmare. The Chained Demon, Michigan, USA, 1980s. This horrifying image captures a demonic figure snarling through chains, its eyes clouded and mouth dripping with darkness. It's actually a still from the cult horror film The Evil Dead, 1981, directed by Sam Raimi, a movie that redefined the horror genre with its intense practical effects and relentless atmosphere. The grotesque makeup, created using simple yet ingenious techniques, gave the illusion of true possession and torment. Decades later, this iconic scene remains etched in horror history as one of cinema's most terrifying visual moments. The Smile Dog, Internet myth, 1990s. This eerie image, widely known as Smile Dog, became one of the earliest and most infamous creepypastas of the internet age. It depicts a demonic, canine-like creature emerging from the darkness, its eyes glowing and mouth filled with unnaturally sharp teeth. According to the legend, viewing the image could drive people to madness or despair. While entirely fictional, the photo's unsettling composition and viral spread turned it into a digital age urban legend, proof that horror had found a new home online. The Caged Mouth, Canada, 2000s. This terrifying image portrays a woman with a gruesome metal apparatus forcing her mouth open, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and madness. Despite appearing like a real horror scene, it's actually a behind-the-scenes still from an independent horror film that used practical effects to create extreme realism. The disturbing design of the facial restraint became infamous online, often shared out of context as a real photo. Its brutal imagery captures the essence of modern horror's obsession with pain, control, and the fragility of humanity. The Kiss of the Spider, United States, 1970s. This shocking photograph shows a woman screaming as a giant tarantula crawls across her open mouth. A surreal and disturbing composition that blurs the line between fear and fascination. The image was originally created for a horror magazine photo shoot during the 1970s, a time when visual shock was used to captivate audiences. Though staged, the raw emotion and unsettling proximity of predator and human make it unforgettable. Its grainy black and white aesthetic only heightens the primal terror it evokes. The Ghost in the Bathtub, Japan, 1990s. This chilling image depicts a pale figure with lifeless white eyes and tangled black hair rising from a grimy bathtub. The scene evokes the unmistakable influence of Japanese horror cinema, particularly the iconic imagery from Ju-on, The Grudge, and Ringu, though staged for a horror art project. The dim lighting and claustrophobic setting amplify the fear of something unnatural lurking just beyond the ordinary. It's a haunting reminder of how simplicity and shadow can evoke far deeper terror than any special effect. The Eye of Terror, Italy, 1970s. This extreme close-up of a wide, terrified eye became one of the most recognizable frames in Italian horror cinema. It comes from the Giallo film movement, known for its stylized violence and psychological suspense. The reflection of fear, the redness of the sclera, and the trembling tear all capture the raw panic of a victim moments before horror strikes. The image stands as a masterclass in visual storytelling, proof that true terror often lies not in what we see, but in what's about to happen. The Possessed Smile, New Zealand, 2020s. This horrifying close-up shows a pale, cracked face with unblinking yellow eyes and a twisted grin. A modern embodiment of cinematic terror. The image is from Evil Dead Rise, 2023. Part of the legendary Evil Dead franchise, known for its visceral horror and demonic possession imagery. The chilling makeup and lighting create a sense of claustrophobic dread, capturing the exact moment when the human is overtaken by the monstrous. It's a perfect example of how contemporary horror continues to evolve while honoring its gruesome origins. The Mask of Silence, France, 1950s. This surreal and unsettling photograph depicts a lifeless mask held by a human hand, its hollow eyes staring into nothingness. Created by an avant-garde French photographer, the piece explores the fragile line between humanity and artifice. The stark contrasts of light and shadow emphasize themes of identity, repression, and decay. With its haunting composition, the image invites viewers to question where the mask ends and the human begins. An eternal dialogue between the living and the inanimate. Behind the Horror, Pittsburgh, USA, 1980s. This fascinating behind-the-scenes photo shows special effects artists posing with one of their grotesque zombie creations from George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, 1985. The film was a milestone in practical horror effects, pushing the boundaries of realism with handmade prosthetics, latex, and animatronics. The smiling corpse at the center reveals the artistry and dedication behind cinematic terror. It's a reminder that even the most horrifying visions of the undead are, at their core, the product of human creativity and craft. The Scream Within, United Kingdom, 1970s. This haunting experimental photograph overlays two faces, one calm, one screaming, creating a visceral depiction of inner torment. The piece was part of a psychological horror art series exploring fear, identity, and mental collapse. The fiery orange tones amplify the emotion of anguish, as if the subject's soul were burning from the inside. It remains a powerful visual metaphor for the unseen horrors of the human mind, where silence and madness coexist beneath the surface. The Awakening, United States, 2020. This terrifying image shows a ghastly figure rising from a bed, its skin gray and decayed, eyes glowing like embers. It's a scene from the modern horror revival era, showcasing the evolution of supernatural terror through advanced prosthetics and lighting design. The expression, a mixture of rage and agony, captures the moment between life and death, sanity and possession. With its cinematic realism, the image embodies the modern fascination with exorcism and the monstrous side of the human soul. The Howling Beast, United States, 1981, this iconic image captures one of the most terrifying transformation moments from the golden age of werewolf cinema. Taken from The Howling, 1981, the film revolutionized horror makeup with its groundbreaking animatronics and latex prosthetics. The creature's snarling face, gleaming fangs, and blood-red lighting embodied the primal fear of losing humanity to the beast within. Even decades later, the raw physicality of this practical effect remains more haunting than any digital monster could ever be. The Watcher on the Landing, United States, 1970s. This chilling black and white photograph shows a spectral figure standing motionless at the top of a staircase, its hollow eyes fixed downward. Believed by some to be a paranormal capture, it was later revealed to be part of an early experimental horror project using long exposure and staged lighting. The grainy quality and eerie stillness lend it an authenticity that continues to unsettle viewers decades later. Whether ghost or illusion, the figure embodies humanity's timeless fear of being watched in the dark. The Rising Dead, United Kingdom, 1960s. This eerie black and white image depicts a skeletal figure emerging from the earth, its decayed hands reaching upward as if clawing back to life. It was taken during the filming of a classic British horror production, part of the Gothic revival era led by studios such as Hammer Films. The combination of theatrical lighting and practical makeup created a chillingly realistic resurrection scene. Even today, it embodies the haunting beauty of vintage horror, where imagination and atmosphere mattered more than special effects. The Tongue of the Damned, United States, 1990s. This grotesque creature, with crimson eyes and a gaping claw-filled mouth, is one of the most unforgettable monsters from the 1990s era of practical horror effects. The image is from Blade This 2, 2002, featuring the terrifying Reapers, a mutated strain of vampires designed to prey on their own kind. The makeup and animatronic design pushed the boundaries of realism, merging biological horror with Gothic style. Its nightmarish anatomy perfectly captures the decade's fascination with the monstrous side of evolution and corruption. The Terror Behind You, United States, 1980s. This intense black and white image captures a woman frozen in fear as a monstrous figure looms behind her, gripping her head with skeletal precision. The scene comes from the golden era of practical horror effects, when creature design relied on handcrafted latex masks and makeup artistry rather than CGI. The contrast of human vulnerability and monstrous aggression makes it unforgettable, a raw visual metaphor for the terror that lurks just out of sight. The Floating Women, France, 1970s. This haunting black and white photograph depicts several women suspended motionless against the walls of an abandoned building, their bare feet hanging lifelessly above the floor. Taken as part of an avant-garde art project, it explores themes of isolation, madness, and the weightlessness of despair. The surreal composition, blurring the line between death and dream, evokes the silent terror of confinement within one's own mind. Its eerie calm makes it one of the most visually unsettling conceptual works of its era. The Mirror Bite, Germany, 1990s. This surreal black and white photograph captures a woman seemingly biting her own reflection, her open mouth perfectly aligned with its mirrored twin. The image was part of a conceptual art series exploring identity, self-conflict, and the subconscious urge for self-destruction. By using only light, reflection, and symmetry, the photographer created an illusion that feels both intimate and deeply unsettling. It's a haunting visual metaphor for how easily we can become devoured by the darker parts of ourselves. The Whispering Woods, Finland, 1960s. This haunting photograph shows ghostly figures drifting through a misty forest, their outlines blurred as if caught between worlds. Created using long exposure, It was part of a Nordic art project exploring folklore and the thin veil between the living and the spirit realm. The stillness of the trees contrasts with the movement of the apparitions, creating an eerie sense of silent ritual. It remains one of the most evocative visual interpretations of the ancient belief that the forest remembers every soul that passes through it. The Meat Locker, United States, 1970s. This disturbing black and white photo shows a woman standing eerily among human-shaped figures wrapped in plastic, suspended upside down like carcasses. Despite its horrifying appearance, the image was actually taken on the set of a low-budget horror film that aimed to blur the line between art and atrocity. The use of stark lighting and lifelike props created an atmosphere so convincing that it circulated for years as an alleged real crime photo. Its chilling realism serves as a reminder of how horror often feels most terrifying when it imitates truth. The Burning Skeleton, United States, 1982. This striking image of a charred skeleton engulfed in flames comes from the cult horror film Poltergeist, 1982. A landmark in supernatural cinema, created with practical effects. The scene was part of the film's terrifying finale, combining animatronics, puppetry, and pyrotechnics to evoke the horror of restless spirits breaking through the physical world. The glowing bones and fiery red light symbolize both destruction and resurrection, turning a simple prop into an unforgettable cinematic nightmare. The Puppet Child, United States, 1960s. This eerie black and white photo shows a small figure sitting on a rock, its oversized head and distorted hands giving it an uncanny, almost human appearance. The image was later revealed to depict a handmade puppet created by a surrealist artist experimenting with body proportions and psychological unease. The combination of lifelike clothing and grotesque anatomy blurs the line between innocence and monstrosity. Even without motion, the puppet's hollow stare conveys a silent, lasting dread, like a childhood memory gone wrong. The Flyman, United States, 1958. This iconic still from the classic sci-fi horror film The Fly, 1958, captures the shocking moment when the monstrous hybrid, part man, part insect, reveals itself. The story follows a scientist whose teleportation experiment goes horribly wrong, merging his body with that of a housefly. The practical effects and elaborate fly head costume became legendary in horror cinema, symbolizing humanity's fear of science gone too far. Even in black and white, the grotesque contrast between beauty and monstrosity remains deeply unsettling. The Demon of the Crypt, United Kingdom, 1957. This terrifying image of a snarling beast with tangled hair and jagged teeth comes from the British horror classic Night of the Demon, 1957. Created long before digital effects, the monster was brought to life through intricate puppetry and smoke-filled lighting, giving it a disturbing sense of realism. The film, based on M.R. James's ghost story Casting the Runes, explored the fear of ancient curses and unseen evil. Though the creature was shown only briefly, its nightmarish appearance left a lasting impression on horror history. Annabelle the Haunted Doll, United States, 2010s. This unsettling image of the doll with lifelike eyes and a chilling smile is from Annabelle, part of the Conjuring film universe. The design was inspired by the real-life Raggedy Ann doll said to be possessed and kept under lock and key by paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. In the movie, Annabelle embodies the fear of innocence corrupted, a child's toy turned vessel of malevolence. Her exaggerated features and haunting stare have since made her one of modern horror's most recognizable icons. The Poker Game with the Dead, United Kingdom, early 1900s. This eerie vintage photograph depicts a group of men casually playing cards with what appears to be a preserved corpse seated at the table. Long believed to be a macabre curiosity from the early 20th century, The image was likely staged as a morbid joke by undertakers or medical students experimenting with post-mortem photography. The unsettling realism, enhanced by the corpse's rigid posture and the men's casual demeanor, blurs the boundary between humor and horror. It's a haunting glimpse into the darker side of Victorian fascination with death. The Hanging in the Branches, France, 1960s. This stark black and white photograph captures a haunting image of a lifeless body entangled high among the branches, suspended in eerie stillness against the sky. The photo is believed to have been taken during a wartime documentation or as part of an avant-garde art project, exploring death and isolation. The stark contrast between the delicate branches and the heavy human form evokes both fragility and finality. Whether real or staged, it remains one of the most haunting visual meditations on mortality and silence ever captured on film. The Mask of Satan, Italy, 1960. This haunting scene comes from Black Sunday, La Maschera del Demonio, 1960, directed by Mario Bava, a landmark of Italian Gothic horror. The image shows the film's chilling opening. The condemned witch Asa Vajda, portrayed by Barbara Steele, moments before the mask of Satan is hammered onto her face. The striking use of black and white contrast, shadow, and ritualistic imagery defined Bava's visual style and influenced generations of horror filmmakers. This moment, both terrifying and mesmerizing, marked the birth of modern European horror cinema. The Vampire's Embrace, United States, 1920s. This hauntingly beautiful photograph captures the romantic yet macabre imagery that defined early vampire cinema of the silent film era. The pale gentleman with hypnotic eyes leans over his victim in a moment frozen between seduction and death. Such imagery was heavily inspired by Nosferatu, 1922, and the Gothic novels of the 19th century, where the vampire symbolized both forbidden desire and eternal damnation. The exaggerated expressions and chiaroscuro lighting evoke the theatrical style of early horror, immortalizing the timeless dance between predator and prey. The Shadow by the Fireplace, United States, 1970s. This unsettling photograph shows a small, dark figure sitting perfectly still beside a fireplace in what appears to be an ordinary family living room. The eyes, glowing faintly in the flash, pierce through the grainy black and white texture, creating a feeling of dread and disbelief. Many who've seen this photo claim it's a case of double exposure or an illusion of light, while others believe it captures something far more supernatural. Whether real or staged, the eerie calm of the shadow figure continues to disturb viewers decades later. The Ghost Beneath the Blanket, Japan, early 2000s. This chilling image comes from a scene in the Japanese horror classic Ju-on, The Grudge, 2002. Directed by Takashi Shimizu, it captures the unforgettable moment when the ghostly figure of Kayako crawls beneath the blanket, a space we instinctively associate with safety. By violating this intimate refuge, the film redefined fear for a new generation of horror fans. The cold lighting, muted tones, and unnatural movement of the spirit evoke a deep, lingering dread that still defines J-horror's haunting aesthetic. The Crawling Curse, Japan, early 2000s. This terrifying image depicts the vengeful spirit from Ju-on, The Grudge, 2002, one of Japan's most iconic horror films. The ghost, drenched in blood and shadow, crawls slowly toward her victims with haunting, deliberate movements. A scene that redefined supernatural horror. The lifeless white skin, hollow eyes, and blood-streaked face became a lasting symbol of J-horror's psychological terror. It's not just the image of death that horrifies here, but the feeling that vengeance itself can take form and follow you anywhere. The Haunting Eyes of Kayako, Japan, 2002. This iconic image captures Kayako Saeki, the central spirit from Ju-on, The Grudge, 2002, whose ghostly white face and piercing golden eyes became a symbol of Japanese horror worldwide. Emerging from darkness with silent rage, Kayako's appearance embodies the chilling beauty of vengeance beyond death. The minimalist lighting and lifeless pallor amplify the terror by forcing viewers to confront her gaze, unblinking, relentless, and filled with eternal sorrow. It's an image that still defines the face of fear in modern horror cinema. The March of the Masked Soldiers, Soviet Union, 1930s. This eerie photograph shows a regiment of soldiers marching through the streets of Moscow, all wearing gas masks during a civil defense parade in the late 1930s. The image, meant to demonstrate military preparedness, instead evokes a dystopian nightmare. Faceless figures moving in unison through a city shadowed by fear of chemical warfare. The lifeless symmetry and anonymity of the soldiers create an almost apocalyptic vision of humanity under total control. A haunting reminder of how war strips away individuality and turns people into ghosts in uniform. Death and the Lady, France, 1900s. This hauntingly staged photograph from the early 1900s captures a woman seated calmly as a skeletal figure looms behind her, personifying death itself. The image was part of a series of memento mori, or spiritualist portraits popular in Europe at the time, reminding viewers of life's fragility and the inevitability of death. The contrast between her refined beauty and the decayed skeleton behind her creates a chilling balance between elegance and mortality, a visual dance between the living and the dead that fascinated early photographers and audiences alike. The Faceless Masquerade, Venice, Italy, 1950s. This eerie photograph shows three women at a Venetian masquerade ball, their elaborate gowns matched by smooth, expressionless black masks. While masquerade culture in Venice was rooted in elegance and mystery, this particular image blurs the line between beauty and fear. The dark masks, devoid of any human emotion, contrast starkly with the ornate white dresses, giving the women an almost ghostly presence. The photo perfectly captures the unsettling allure of anonymity, where identity dissolves and only the performance of the mask remains. The Folded Face, United States, 1960s. This disturbing and surreal photograph captures a man whose face appears to be crumpled like paper beneath his glasses. Taken by American photographer Ralph Eugene Meatyard, known for his eerie and experimental portraits. The image plays with distortion, identity, and the fragility of human form. The folds and shadows blur the line between flesh and mask, evoking the hidden fears and deformities beneath ordinary appearances. It's a haunting study of self and illusion, unsettling precisely because it feels almost real. The Chainsaw Terror, Texas, USA, 1974. This chilling image captures a scene from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the most infamous horror films in cinema history. The grotesque figure, known as Leatherface, became a symbol of raw, unfiltered fear. His weapon of choice, the chainsaw, redefining brutality on screen. Filmed on a shoestring budget in the scorching Texas heat, the movie's gritty realism and disturbing tone blurred the boundary between fiction and nightmare. Decades later, this photograph remains an enduring icon. Thank you for watching till the end. You've just witnessed some of the most chilling and mysterious vintage photos ever captured. If these images sent shivers down your spine, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more haunting journeys into the forgotten past. Your support keeps these lost memories alive and perhaps awakens what should have remained buried.